Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for one night? Shy Cooker asked the rancher who'd just been dumped. It was a sweltering night in the dusty town of Hollow Creek. The sundown saloon buzzed with sweat and noise, boots stomping against worn floorboards, men shouting over poker, and the occasional clang of a whiskey bottle meeting the edge of a bar counter. Ceiling fans spun lazily overhead, stirring more dust than air. Evelyn Evie Harper kept her head down as usual, her apron smudged with flour and bacon grease, cheeks flushed from the heat of the kitchen stove. She moved quietly from the swinging door of the kitchen to the bar, refilling empty glasses and dropping off plates with practiced speed. She had only been in town for a few weeks, and though no one bothered to know her name, some already looked too long at her, with eyes she had learned to avoid. One of them was Curtis Malloy. Curtis was a regular, loud, mean, and 3 whissies past decent. He had been watching Evie all night with a crooked grin and a lopsided slouch. When she passed too close, he reached out and grabbed her wrist. "Hey now, pretty thing," Curtis slurred, pulling her closer. "How about you stop hiding in that kitchen and come sit on my lap?" Evie froze. Her tray clattered to the floor. She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Come on now," he said louder. "Ain't no reason a girl like you should be working so hard. I got me a room upstairs. We could make it official. I'll make you my little wife." Laughter rose around the bar, but no one stood up. A few turned away, others watched with shallow amusement. The bartender looked down, busying himself with bottles. Eve's breath hitched. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. Then the saloon door creaked open and a gust of warm wind blew in a stranger. He was tall, broad-shouldered, covered in trail dust. His black hat shadowed a rugged square face with hard-set eyes that had seen too much. He walked with the deliberate calm of a man who knew exactly how dangerous he looked. Warren West Remington scanned the room once, then made his way to an empty table in the back. He sat, ordered nothing, just stared straight ahead until the noise of Curtis's drunken voice drew his attention. He watched. When Curtis let go of Evie's wrist to swat at her tray, she saw a single chance. She bolted. Her legs moved before her mind caught up, weaving through tables until she reached the corner where the stranger sat. Without thinking, she gripped his sleeve, clinging like a drowning girl to driftwood. "He's with me," she said, voice barely above a whisper, but clear. Then louder, desperate. "Can you pretend to be my boyfriend just for tonight?" Wes looked down at her. Her eyes were wide, terrified. Her hand trembled on his arm. He could feel the pulse of her panic through his shirt. Behind her, Curtis was stomping over, red in the face. Wes stood. The room went quiet. Curtis stumbled to a stop. The difference in size was comical. Wes towered over him, the kind of man built for war. Or worse, he did not raise his voice. He did not make a show. He only stared. "I suggest you walk away now," Wes said, his tone low and lethal. Curtis blinked, took a step back, then another. "She ain't worth it," he muttered, and turned, slipping out the saloon door with a coward's curse. The saloon burst into nervous cheers and laughter. Someone slapped the bar. A few clapped, but Wes did not smile. Evie, cheeks burning, backed away. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. Wes nodded once, then sat back down, arms crossed. Evie retreated behind the kitchen door. Her knees almost gave out as she gripped the counter, trying to breathe. Her heart still raced, her hands still tingled from touching his sleeve. Out in the saloon, Warren drank his whiskey alone, while the room slowly returned to its noise. But every so often, his eyes drifted toward the kitchen door. And behind it, Evie stood with her back pressed to the wall, wondering what she had just done, and why. It did not feel like a mistake. Morning came with the dry crackle of wind over sunbaked wood and the smell of dust rising off the street. The sundown saloon was quieter in daylight, just the clink of dishes and the low hum of coffee boiling in the back. Evie Harper stood behind the kitchen doorway, half hidden in the shadow of hanging pans. Her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her apron as she peeked into the dining area. He had come back. Warren Remington. Same black hat. Same broad shoulders, same unreadable face. He stood at the counter now, laying down a few coins from his worn leather wallet. "I didn't eat anything last night," he said. The saloon owner, Mr. Glee, looked up from his ledger. "Still took a seat, didn't you?" he said gruffly, though his eyes held something softer. Money's good, but you're getting breakfast on the house. I don't need charity. Ain't charity. It's from your girlfriend back there, Glee added with a crooked smile, nodding toward the kitchen. She's the one cooking it. Eve's cheeks flushed instantly. She ducked behind the shelf and nearly dropped the plate she was holding. Girlfriend. She nearly bolted out the back door, but she didn't. Instead, she plated 2 eggs, some buttered bread, and crisp slices of bacon. Her hands moved quickly, but her heart drummed like a drum in her chest. She wiped the edge of the plate twice, then carried it out step by step until she was standing in front of the man who'd saved her from humiliation the night before. Warren looked up as she placed the plate on the table. His eyes met hers. Evie bit her lip. "Good morning," she said, voice soft. "Morning," he replied. She turned to walk away, but his voice stopped her. "Do you still want me to pretend?" She froze. Slowly, she turned back. He was not smiling, but his tone wasn't mocking. He asked it the way a man might ask if she needed a door held open or if she wanted sugar in her coffee, as if the question wasn't absurd at all. Evie let out a small, nervous laugh. "Maybe, just long enough so people leave me alone." Warren nodded once, then picked up his fork. Evie stepped back toward the kitchen, but halfway there, she paused. "My name," she said without turning, "is Evelyn, but most people call me Evie." She waited. After a beat, he replied, Warren Remington." Her lips twitched at the edge. Back in the kitchen, Evie stood at the counter, hands pressed to the wood, exhaling shakily. It had been years since someone asked her what she wanted. Not what she feared, not what she'd been told to do, but what she wanted. And somehow, in a saloon full of strangers, in a dusty town she barely knew, a man who barely spoke had given her that. A choice, a name, and for the first time in a very long time, a quiet kind of morning that felt like something close to peace. The wind behind the sundown saloon carried the scent of firewood and dry grass. It was near midnight. Most of the lanterns in town had gone out, but one still glowed faintly in the alley behind the kitchen. Evie stepped out, apron still tied around her waist. The air was cooler now, crisp in a way that hinted autumn might not be far. She had not meant to listen earlier, but the words from Mr. Grady, the saloon owner, had lodged in her head. Remington. That's the fellow got left at the altar. Real shame. Pretty girl, too. She had stilled, one hand resting on a basket of bread rolls, heart sinking. Now she saw him, Warren Remington, sitting alone on a stack of crates, staring up at the stars like they owed him answers. His frame, broad and unmoving, cast a heavy silhouette against the lantern's glow. She hesitated before approaching. "Mr. Remington," she said softly. He didn't look over right away. "Evie, I'm sorry," she said. He finally turned, brows furrowed, voice low. "For what? I dragged you into all this." The lie, pretending. Warren gave a dry breath. Something between a sigh and a laugh. "That hell, I've played worse parts in real life." She smiled faintly, stepping closer. "Still, if I had known what they said about your fiancé." His eyes flickered. "So, you heard. I didn't mean to. It's all right." He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "We were supposed to get married last spring. She left the night before the wedding. Said I didn't love her right or loud enough." Evie sat beside him, fingers folding into each other. "What did she want you to do?" He shrugged. "Say the words. Make speeches. I'm not built like that. I thought showing up every day, staying, building a life, that was love." She was quiet for a moment. "Would that have made a day for God?" Then whispered, "That is love." He glanced sideways at her. "What about you? Someone like you, kind, soft-spoken. Someone must have wanted you." "My family did," she said bitterly. "For someone else." Warren straightened slightly. "They tried to marry me off to a man twice my age. He had land, money. They said it was a good match. I was just a piece in their bargain." "You ran?" he asked. She nodded. "Left everything. Took a train with $20 and a change of clothes. This town was the last stop." He whistled softly. "Takes guts." "No," she murmured. "Just fear. I was afraid if I stayed, I'd disappear." They fell into silence again. The town around them seemed asleep, unaware that two people who carried too much weight were sitting shoulder to shoulder, finding air again. Warren rubbed his jaw, eyes distant. She used to tell me I was impossible to understand, that she needed poetry and grand gestures. I never knew how to give that. Evie looked down at her hands. Maybe she didn't know how to see what was already there. He gave her a long look. And you, anyone ever tell you you're impossible? All the time, she said, smiling tightly. But not because they couldn't love me, because they didn't want to try. There was something fragile in the space between them now. Not quite sadness, not quite peace, just honesty, bare and unprotected. Evie reached out slowly, placing her hand atop his rough, scarred, motionless beneath her touch. You don't need to say it, she said quietly. You showed it when you stood up for me. His gaze locked onto hers, unmoving. The wind picked up, fluttering a loose curl at her temple. I didn't even know your name, he murmured. You didn't need to, she replied. They sat like that for a while, her hand over his, until the lantern burned low. Neither moved first, neither wanted to, because in the ruins of old love, sometimes something true begins to grow. The days slipped by, one sunburnt evening at a time. After the third night of Warren staying late, the saloon's owner, Mr. Glee, made the offer casually while wiping a dusty glass. You ever think of sticking around? He asked. Place could use someone who makes the riff-raff nervous. Got an extra cot in the loft. Meals included. Warren thought for a long second, then nodded. I'll earn my keep. Evie was in the back chopping onions when she heard. Her hand paused mid-slice. Something warm flickered in her chest. That night, after the rush died down, and the last drunk staggered out the door, she brought 2 plates to the small prep table behind the kitchen. Simple stew, cornbread, and roasted root vegetables. Warren sat across from her. He did not say much. He never did, but he listened, and that was more than most. Over time, a rhythm formed. Evie learned he liked his eggs over hard, and that he poured pepper like it was gold dust. He learned she hummed when she chopped herbs, and that her left hand curled slightly when she was nervous. They talked in fragments. I hated turnips as a kid, he muttered once, frowning at the bowl. She smirked. Too bad. They're in everything here. Another night, while the rain tapped the windows, he told her about learning to ride bareback in Wyoming. How he broke his collarbone twice. She admitted she used to hide behind the stove when guests came over, afraid of being asked to speak. Why? He asked. She hesitated, then answered. Because I didn't think I had anything worth saying. Warren looked at her for a long time. That ever change? She met his eyes. Maybe a little. One evening, the saloon buzzed with unexpected traffic. Riders from the next town over passing through. Orders piled high. Evie worked fast, but something in her stomach twisted wrong. A deep cramp curled through her middle, then another. She pressed a hand to her side, breath hitching. But the grill sizzled. The tickets kept coming. Warren found her hunched near the sink an hour later, pale and sweating. You all right? He asked, crouching beside her. I need to finish the pies, she muttered, voice thin. He did not argue. He just nodded once, stood up, and returned 15 minutes later with a steaming mug of something that smelled of chamomile, mint, and honey. He placed it in her hands without a word, then pulled up a chair and sat silently beside her while she sipped. The warmth settled in her stomach. Her breath steadied. After a while, she said almost inaudibly, no one's ever taken care of me like that. Warren did not look at her, but his hand, resting near hers, stayed just close enough that she could feel the safety in its stillness. They finished their tea in silence, but in the quiet space between sips and heartbeats, something gentle grew, unspoken, undeniable. The afternoon sun beat down on Dry Creek, casting long shadows across the boardwalks and stirring up dust in the market square. Word had begun to spread, soft at first, the tall stranger and the shy cook. Evie heard it in the hush of the saloon kitchen, in the glances of guests, in the way children pointed as she walked by. They say Harper's got herself a rancher for a beau. One woman whispered to another over boiled eggs and coffee. Remington, that brute. The other scoffed. Evie's hands shook the first time she heard it, carrying a pie toward a table. She stopped mid-step, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. She imagined the tray crashing to the floor. Instead, she said it gently, forced a small smile, and kept moving. Warren noticed her tremor, but said nothing. The rumors only seemed to make things quieter between them, more real somehow. Then came the invitation to the spring jubilee in the town square. Horseshoe tosses, fiddlers, lemonade stands, prizes for best cornbread. Mr. Glee insisted the saloon would serve food at the event, and that EIE would attend with her date. Evie froze when the words left his mouth. That evening, she stood behind the saloon door, apron folded, heart pounding. She looked across the yard and saw Warren's spotless boots, clean coat, silk kerchief around his neck, and a stray lock of dark hair brushing his brow. He looked nothing like a man pretending to stay. Someone tapped her shoulder. The saloon owner stood there. "You ready?" She nodded. He led her outside. The band was playing. Laughter spilled into the twilight. I'll give the next part of this story in the next episode. Like the channel Wild West Story, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you never miss the next story.